In this video, I'm going to explore one of the most chilling statements Tolkien ever made about his beloved wizard character. This revelation might completely change how you view Gandalf and his role in Middle-earth, especially if you've only experienced the movies. What I'm about to share comes directly from Tolkien's own letters and writings, and it paints a picture of Gandalf that's far more complex and potentially terrifying than most fans realise. Let's dive into this fascinating topic. The statement that shook the Tolkien community comes from letter number 246 of the Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. In this correspondence, Tolkien wrote something that initially seems impossible to believe. He stated that if Gandalf had taken the One Ring for himself, he would have become a Dark Lord far worse than Sauron ever was. This wasn't a throwaway comment or speculation. Tolkien was being completely serious about the potential for absolute corruption that existed within the Grey Wizard. To understand why Tolkien made such a bold claim, we need to examine what Gandalf truly represents in Middle-earth. As many fans know from the books, Gandalf isn't actually human. He belongs to an order of beings called the Istari, who are essentially incarnated angels sent to guide and protect the free peoples. These beings possess immense power that goes far beyond what we see in the films. The key detail here is that Gandalf deliberately restrains himself, operating under strict limitations placed upon him by higher powers. The terrifying implication of Tolkien's statement becomes clear when we consider what would happen if those restraints were removed. Gandalf's wisdom, his deep understanding of hearts and minds, his ability to inspire and lead, all of these qualities that make him such an effective force for good would become weapons of unimaginable destruction in the wrong circumstances. Sauron, for all his power, relies primarily on fear, brute force, and the corruption of existing evil tendencies. His methods are relatively straightforward, if brutally effective. Gandalf, however, would approach domination from an entirely different angle. His corruption would be far more insidious and complete. Where Sauron rules through terror and obvious malice, a corrupted Gandalf would likely present himself as a benevolent ruler, someone who genuinely believes he knows what's best for everyone. This kind of tyranny is infinitely more dangerous because it would be nearly impossible to recognise or resist. The wizard's intimate knowledge of the various races of Middle-earth, his understanding of their hopes, fears, and motivations, would allow him to manipulate them in ways Sauron never could. People would willingly submit to his rule, believing they were being saved rather than enslaved. This is the kind of corruption that destroys not just bodies and kingdoms, but souls and the very concept of free will itself. Consider how Gandalf operates throughout the stories. He doesn't simply tell people what to do. Instead, he guides them toward making the right choices themselves. He plants seeds of thought, offers cryptic advice, and allows others to reach their own conclusions. This approach stems from his fundamental respect for free will and his understanding that true victory must come from within. But imagine if these same skills were turned toward darker purposes. A corrupted Gandalf wouldn't need armies of orcs or massive fortresses like Barad-dûr. He would have something far more powerful at his disposal, the complete trust and admiration of those he sought to control. Think about how the people of Middle-earth react to him. Kings seek his counsel, warriors follow his lead without question, and entire populations look to him for guidance during their darkest hours. This level of influence, when corrupted, becomes the perfect tool for absolute domination. Tolkien understood that the most dangerous tyrants aren't always the ones who announce their evil intentions. History shows us that the worst oppression often comes wrapped in the language of necessity, protection, and the greater good. A fallen Gandalf would likely convince his subjects that their freedom was a burden, that their choices led to suffering, and that surrendering their will to his superior wisdom was actually liberation. The ring's corruption would amplify every aspect of Gandalf's personality, both good and bad. His desire to help others would twist into an overwhelming need to control them. His wisdom would become arrogance. His compassion would transform into a cold, calculating manipulation disguised as care. Most terrifyingly, he would genuinely believe that everything he was doing was right and necessary. This explains why Gandalf shows such fear when Frodo offers him the ring. He doesn't refuse it out of false modesty or simple caution. He rejects it because he understands exactly what he would become, and that knowledge terrifies him. The very qualities that make him such an effective guardian of Middle-earth would make him an unstoppable destroyer of everything he once protected. Sauron's evil is obvious and external. People can recognize it, fight against it, and ultimately overcome it through courage and sacrifice. But Gandalf's hypothetical corruption would be internal, seductive, and seemingly reasonable. It would be the kind of evil that convinces you it isn't evil at all, making resistance not just difficult, but seemingly wrong. So the next time you watch Gandalf on screen, remember that his greatest act of heroism isn't defeating the Balrog or leading the charge at Minas Tirith. It's his constant choice to remain humble, to step back when he could step forward, and to guide rather than command. Tolkien's terrifying vision of what Gandalf could become serves as a powerful reminder that the line between salvation and damnation often rests not on our abilities, but on our restraint. The most dangerous power isn't always the one that destroys with fire and sword, but the one that conquers hearts and minds while convincing its victims that they're being saved. In many ways, Gandalf's true strength lies not in what he can do, but in what he chooses not to do. That restraint, that deliberate limitation of his own power, is what separates the guardian angel from the fallen one. It's a sobering thought that makes his character far more complex and his choices far more meaningful than most people realize. If you found this exploration of Middle-earth's hidden depths fascinating, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It really helps small channels like this grow. Take care and see you in the next one.